This is In Between Them, a podcast where we uncover what it really felt like to be a child of divorce. I am Shannon Darrow, and each episode brings honest stories from brave adults who lived through this as children. This is In Between Them. Let's get going. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yes, no problem. Happy to be here.
I appreciate your time. And in full disclosure, I talked to your wife already, and that's kind of who looped you into doing this. So I appreciate you letting her do that and helping me with this project and just being a willing participant. So I really appreciate that. I usually start with asking you to give me a kind of a brief snapshot of who you are, just so that audience or anyone listening can connect with you in any way. So just kind of your life in general, who you are, you're a dad, that kind of stuff.
Sure. So I am a dad. I have two young, beautiful daughters, age 5 and 7. Live in Oregon now in Tualatin, but I grew up in a little town up in Washington State, about a half hour north of Portland, called La Center, Washington. Went K through 12 there, graduated a couple years of college, wanted to switch what I was currently majoring in because I had a panic attack. So I decided to take a year off of college, and then just kind of never went back, kind of drifted for a little bit, got into the trades. I became an electrician, did that for about 20 years. And then about 4 years ago, I became a real estate agent. And I still keep my electrical license active because that's a good thing to fall back to during slow periods.
Well, yeah. But you're a realtor, so you can be like, hey, that outlet doesn't look right. Maybe I can fix that for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I do that for a lot of my clients in a transaction. If it's something, I know how to do a lot of things, but even though I have my license, there's certain things I can't do as far as like panel changes, anything that takes a permit inspection.
Okay.
I just refer a company for that because I don't want to lose my license doing something I'm not allowed to do. But yeah, two beautiful daughters, two huge crazy dogs, and life is good. Yeah.
Well, good. Except if we just had some sunny days, then it would all be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Soon
That's coming.
Yes, I see the tulips coming for sure. Well, thank you for that. I think that what I wanted to ask you before I thought how great it is that you are an electrician and now a realtor, but what was your major before you had a panic attack? I was interested in knowing.
Business, and I was going for marketing.
Okay. So you went very different.
It was business administration, yeah, and then I was going to try to focus in marketing, and just kind of had a panic attack and wanted to switch at the last minute, didn't know what. And my mom was like, just get your degree, figure it out later. And I was like, no, I just panicked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to take a year off. And she's like, okay, take a semester off. I'm like, I'm going to take a year off. And then I just kind of, like I said, drifted a little bit, and then got into being an electrician with one of my close friends. We started at the same company, and it was fun. It was great.
Well, and it probably gave you so much freedom. You weren't cooped up in a place all day. And once you have that, like I've worked from home for 20 years. And once I worked from home, I was like, you're never going to stick me back in an office. It's just too much freedom, And so once you know that, you're not giving that up. It's hugely valuable.
And that's what I love about, one of the things I love about being a realtor now is I primarily work from home. And so the freedom to help with our daughters, pick them up from school, take them to school, all the practices, it's very, very convenient,
It gives you a way to parent that is really special because you can be there for different things. Even if you're cooped up in an office in your house, your presence is something that you wouldn't be there if you were literally gone. And that's something that's so different for those kids. Although my husband and I both work from home, and I say to him all the time, my child is going to have this warped view of the world because having both parents that work from home who are flexible, he's like, "What
Yeah.
do you mean people work in an office from 8 to 5? Like what is rush hour?" So
Yeah, I can see
yeah, so I
that.
feel like at some point we need to like expose him to like that kind of world, but I don't think that world is getting any bigger anymore. So maybe we'll be okay.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, again, appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing all of that. I would like to start by asking you how old you were when your parents got divorced and what you recall from that time frame.
So I was a year and a half, um, maybe just before just before a year and a half. So I don't have memories of that. Um, it was it was all just very normal. I would say the first recollection I have that they were divorced, I was probably around like 5 or 6, um, and it was just kind of all I knew.
Yeah.
So it was all very normal to me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What did when you did have awareness at 5 or 6, what did your life look like at that point? Like, where were you living? What did that look like?
So it was kind of interesting now that I'm older, uh, looking back. So it started where my dad had my brother who was a year and 2 days old. So I have two brothers, two older brothers, and an older sister. My sister is the oldest. I'm the youngest. And so my dad had my brother and I, and my mom, or excuse me, my mom had my brother and I, and my dad had my older brother and my older sister.
Like,
Um,
permanently, like, full time?
yeah, yeah, they split the two of
Wow.
us up, so they each had two. Um, and I think it was that situation until I was probably 2.5 or 3, and then my mom, she wanted custody of my sister, like the mom wanted her girl kind of thing. And so my dad said, I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure the courts weren't too involved. I think they were kind of like, you guys figure this out. We can't force you to change kids. My dad said, you can have your, I'm not going to say my siblings' names, but you can have your daughter, but I want the two young boys. And so they kind of like traded. And so then my dad had all three of us boys, and my mom had just my sister. And so, and even that was still normal to me once I think I found that out when I was like 8 or 9. And I was like, oh, that's kind of, whatever. I didn't really think much of it. But now that I'm, of course, older, it's
Yeah.
kind of strange that that's the way it worked out.
Yeah.
Um,
So how did that work? I mean, did you see your mom? Did your dad see your sister? And how far apart did you guys live? I mean, that's so
yeah.
fascinating.
So my dad and he remarried, and so I had a stepmom. Once my dad took custody of, he had all three of us boys. We lived in La Center. My mom and my sister were in Brush Prairie, which is kind of by Battleground, Washington. So that's probably about 20 minute drive away. Like no freeway, just back roads. So it's pretty close travel wise. My brothers and I would go see my birth mom every other weekend. She would have custody every other weekend. My sister started out for a couple years. She would come to our place in the center every other weekend, but once she became like 11, 12, 13, a young teenager, that kind of stopped. And then I would only see my sister when we would go over there to see my mom in Brush Prairie every other weekend. The brother that's oldest, he's what, 4 years older than me. He stopped going over to see my mom every other weekend because same thing that happened with my sister. He was a young teenager and wanted to hang out with friends. So then I was just my brother that's a year older than me. We would just go every other weekend. So
Wow.
um, I think my mom was paying child support to my dad because I'm not sure, probably because he had 3 kids, three of us, where she only had one. But yeah, it was, and still, I mean, it was what I was pretty
Yeah.
much born into. It seemed like, because it all happened at so young of an age.
Yeah.
It was just normal, completely normal for me.
What was your relationship like with each of your parents, considering that's a different type of arrangement?
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I was closer at that, growing up at a young age with my dad because we lived with him. I still loved my mom. It was normal to only see her every other weekend. She would like we I grew up playing soccer, like young at a young age, and she would come to all of our Saturday games. So I would see her at the soccer games, give her a hug and stuff. Sometimes she would take us out for lunch or something after a game, and then drop us back off at home. Um, but no, I mean, it was a normal relationship. I mean, I loved them both the
There
same.
was no
It's just I was closer to my dad. He
Yeah,
would take us fishing and stuff. I saw him every day, kind of thing.
yeah. What were your parents like? Were they friendly?
Mm.
Was that a difficult thing?
Not really. They acted like they were, but like we would have to do separate um events like birthdays and stuff. We'd celebrate my birthday separate, from each other. So I always had two birthdays, which was great. But even like Christmas, like my dad and my mom, they wouldn't get together on Christmas. We had Christmas at my mom's house and then Christmas morning at home in the center. So it was always separated. It wasn't until years down the road when I was probably a year or two out of high school that they really became more amicable. And we one Christmas, like because now my sister, my brother who's a year older, we all have families, and so we just kind of would do one big thing,
Yeah.
and they would get along at that point. But initially, the first 15, 16 years, it was kind of strange.
Did they did they give you any indication directly from them about how they felt about each other, or was that, like, you're just what you kind of picked up on?
It's what I picked up on. They would never like talk bad about the other in front of me, if that's what you mean. It was just little things I picked up on. Like I guess sometimes one of them would make a little snarky comment about the other or something, but it was never, in my opinion, purposefully bad talking the other in front of me to try to sway my opinion of the other kind of thing.
Yeah,
But it was pretty much just stuff I gathered myself.
yeah, yeah.
And I never really asked either of them, like, what do you think of dad? What do you think of, why don't you guys get along? Why can't we do one big event? It was just the way it was. And so it was fine.
Did you ever get any clarity on that as you got older? In terms of, like, what
No, not really. And I still haven't asked. I think maybe my older siblings did, my sister and my oldest brother, because I'm sure it was different for them. They were older, so
Yeah,
it wasn't probably as normal for them as it was for me. Like they were probably, my sister was probably what, almost 7, 7.5 when they were divorced. If I was a year and a half, I'm sure it was different for them. Maybe they were
sure.
more
Yeah,
interested in finding out what happened, why it happened. But to me, I was just existing in it and
yeah.
fine. I was happy.
It's interesting because that's not you are actually the third person that I have heard about who where, like, the siblings kind of split with the parents. I had
Mm,
never heard about that before. And I can imagine that in some ways it might make sense. I think everybody's gonna have reasons that they do that. Um, the interesting thing I think is the age difference. So if let's just take your sister, you're 1.5, your sister's 7-ish. It's a 6-year age gap. When you have your own children or you see kids at school and you see, like, that 6-year age gap, you realize how those kids are in very different worlds. And so, because my initial reaction would be, how could you ever split siblings? But then when you know kids in those age ranges and you realize they're very disconnected anyways. Now, not always, and every family is going to be different, but just from, like, how they're functioning in the world, what they're doing, what their daily life looks like, and all of that, it's very different. It requires different things from the parents also. So my initial feeling is, oh my gosh, how could you separate kids? But then when you think of that and the age range, it would be much different than if they separated you and your next brother, like your brother that's just a year older than you, you know? Um, and so I just would love to know a little bit about your thoughts around the splitting of your siblings. And really, it's more the splitting of just your sister because the three of you were together, and what your relationship was like then and what it's like now, and kind of if you see any impact of that, or if actually you saw some impact but by now you're older and it's fine, like what does that look like?
Well, it was weird only seeing my sister for sure like every couple weeks, you know. And I wanted to see her more. We had a great relationship. She would she would hang out, play with my brother and I when we were the only two going over there once my older brother was older, but she was always often out with friends doing stuff. So there were times where I'd go over there for the weekend and I would only see her for a couple hours and she would be off staying the night at a friend's house or something. But when she was there, she was always she was fun and I always wanted to like see her more, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So that was hard for me, for sure. I
Yeah.
felt like I wasn't as close to her as I wanted to be, like as
Yeah.
a child.
Yeah.
Um, once we got older, I mean, especially when I was able to drive and stuff, or even now, I mean, we're close, you know,
Yeah.
and it's I don't think anything is like would have been different if even if nothing happened. I think I would our relationship would probably be the same as it is now, you know.
It's probably
But
more like when you think about your daughters, those
mm,
memories that they have as kids together, you know, or the different things that like funny things that happen just in daily life, you know, those memories you don't really share with her, but you share that with your brothers. And so it's nice to hear that as adults, you guys are all kind of, it's easier, because and maybe it's because it sounds like both homes were healthy environments. I don't know if I'm assuming too much, but so no one was experiencing fear or harm or unsafety where the other one wasn't, type of thing. Because that would also be a factor that would cause different things, you know, out of that if one is experiencing like real hardship and the other ones are not.
yeah, no, definitely that was not the case. They were both safe homes. My stepmom was very strict raising us, um, and but still that was fine. It wasn't until I was kind of a teenager where we started to butt heads
Yeah.
a little bit. Um, and now that I'm older, I see the genius in the way she raised us. Like she was very strict. She grew up in the my stepmom grew up in the South, I think Arkansas. Um, and so her cooking was incredible, like fried chicken, great stuff. But there were times where, and she would cook one meal, that's it, you know. And so she would sometimes cook beef stroganoff, and I hated it. And so I one night I'm like, I'm not eating this, whatever. And so she's like, sit at the table until you're done. Hey, I didn't take one bite. So she's like, okay, go to bed. And so it was bedtime. So I went to bed and she would cook huge breakfast, bacon, eggs, waffles, like even on school mornings, she would cook great breakfast. Hey, she made this great breakfast for my brothers. In my spot is the beef stroganoff from the night before. She's like, there's your breakfast. I'm like, so I
Oh,
didn't eat for it was like a battle of wills. I didn't eat for like 2.5 days because every meal that dinner was right
that
back
might
on
be
the plate
taking
for
it a
me.
little too far.
Yeah, so I ended up winning the battle of wills, and she broke down and cooked like a big platter of bacon and waffles and stuff for me.
Oh my gosh.
But that's who she was, and it's genius now because I think of how many different dinners I make my daughters. Like,
Yeah.
well, I'll make a dinner for my wife and I, and sometimes our youngest will want that. Our oldest daughter, who's 7, I don't want that, and so I'll make her something else. And I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know,
I
I should adapt what my stepmom did, and it
totally.
would be much easier.
And maybe
Yeah,
you could just shorten it to like one day instead of 2.5 days of not eating
Yeah,
if you do
yeah,
it to
yeah.
others.
I thought it was extreme what she did,
That's
but
so
like I said, I
funny.
now that I'm older, I see why she raised us how she did, um, and it makes sense. Even though we butted heads a
Yeah,
lot when I was a teenager.
that's really
Yeah.
funny. I That made me think of a very quick story. My dad was from Europe originally, and so his view was like, we don't waste food, we eat everything, it was always clean your plate, blah blah blah. And I remember we had cereal one night for dinner, and I had to be under 5, and I'm not a huge milk person, and it was Cheerios, and I would not eat them. And I sat there and I remember watching the Cheerios just get bigger and bigger and bigger in the milk. And then I was like, I am definitely not eating this now. And I have no
Yeah.
memory of what happened. I don't think he starved me for 2 days. But I will say I was a weird cereal eater after that until I stopped eating cereal whenever that was. But yeah, it was really funny how those things really stick with you.
Well, I would rather have Cheerios than beef stroganoff. So
Well, and I would probably rather have beef stroganoff, so we should have just been able to swap it,
we should have
honestly.
switched. Too bad you weren't my sister living with
Right,
and living with us
there
too.
you go, there
We
you
could
go.
traded.
That's so funny. So I want, like, having that realization of your stepmom later and appreciating that, obviously, as we do many things, as, we have our own kids, but what was that like having her and your mom? And I was wondering, as you were talking earlier, did you ever wish that you could go live with your mom or see what that would be like? Like,
Yes, for sure. And I actually did end up living with my mom sophomore year in high school. But before I get to that, I would say like I said, my stepmom was very strict. The way she would raise us, a lot of that is because I had a stepbrother as well, her son, and he at the time when he was going through high school, he was kind of a problem kid. He got into some drugs and stuff, hung out with the bad crowd, and so I think that's one of the reasons why my stepmom raised us so strict. She didn't want us to fall into that. I mean, she raised us like we were her own kids, which as a woman marrying a guy with three sons, I mean that's you got to
yeah.
be a little crazy to begin with, in my opinion. But no, she. So I think she was trying to make sure that the same thing didn't happen to us. And then I would go to my mom's house every other weekend, and I don't want to say she spoiled us, but we could eat whatever we want whenever we want. Um, it was we would it seemed like it was just more fun to me, and so there was a part of me that was at a young age like, well, I kind of wish I lived here. But I mean, at the same time, I was happy living with my dad and stepmom. But definitely, I had some thoughts about what it would be like living with my mom.
Did you ever
And I
verbalize that to anyone?
no,
No.
no, I never did. I didn't. I was never one for like confrontation about that kind of stuff. I didn't want to create anything. So I never talked to my mom or my dad about that, or my stepmom. I never made that known that I was like curious about it.
Or your
Um,
brothers?
no, I never really talked to them either about it. And so I don't know. Maybe they were thinking this. Maybe my brother that was a
Yeah.
year older, year and 2 days older than me, was thinking the same thing. But I mean, we're guys. We don't talk to each other. We don't
Right.
talk feelings.
Yeah. But I mean, even kind of in flippant ways, sometimes guys just say, like, almost like a joking way to, like, get it out.
Yeah.
And and I would imagine you and your brother that's a year older than you were probably fairly close considering your
Yep.
age,
And
so
we
yeah,
shared a bedroom and stuff,
yeah.
at the house in La Center, so we were definitely very close growing up, yeah.
Okay. So talk to me about how you ended up at your mom's your sophomore year. So
Yeah,
something
so
happened.
I was, 16, I had my driver's license for a couple months. I was dating a girl who my stepmom did not like or really approve of, and I was like, I don't care. Then, like I said, I'm like, she's just being too strict. But this girl was a couple years older. She was in my same grade. She was from El Salvador, so I think she started the school. She actually moved to La Center in like fourth grade. Um, but yeah, she was like a year and a half older, so maybe that's why my stepmom had reservations about that. She's like dating an older woman, you know. Anyways, so I had my driver's license. I was grounded for something. I can't remember why I got grounded. And so I was supposed to come home from school and just stay at home. My stepmom was at work. I knew she usually gets home around 4:30, 4:30 or 5, and so I'm like, I'm going to drive to my girlfriend's house for like a quick visit and then come home. Went for a quick visit, came home, and my stepmom was there, and the shit hit the fan, so to speak. We got in a huge fight. My dad was, of course, there. He wasn't really saying much. My dad never was a yeller, screamer. He pretty much uh, let my stepmom like do parent us however she wanted. You know, he was just kind of like, yes, yes, dear. You know, I've seen him put his foot down a couple times, but he would definitely pick his rare moments. Anyways, so I got in a huge fight with my stepmom. I can't remember what exactly I said, but she slapped me in the face, and so I looked right at him and I said, I'm moving in with my mom." And my stepmom was like, "That's great, blah 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 blah. Go call her and see if she'll even allow it." But yeah, you're not going anywhere, kind of thing, you know. And so I went down, called my mom, told her. She was thrilled. She's like, "Absolutely, you can move in." You know, she was like so happy. Um, my dad came down crying. That's the first time I've ever seen him cry. But that's basically what happened. I packed my stuff up, got in my car, and drove over to my mom's house. Moved in with her. Yeah, and she, like I said, my mom was just over the moon excited that I was moving in with her.
Oh,
She was so happy about it. So
does that
that's how
make
that.
you, uh, with your mom being that happy, does that ever make you think about the fact that, wow, did she want me to be there more often and never tried to get me to be there more?
Probably because at that point I was older, and so I wasn't going over every other weekend anymore. I would still see her. I was always active in sports. She would come to every game, whether it was a Tuesday night, you know, like basketball or for the high school or whatever. She would come to all my games, so I'd always see her. But it was no longer the full every other weekend visits, you know. So she was seeing less of me and my brothers, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think she was just so happy to be able to see me more,
yeah,
basically, you
yeah.
know. And maybe she had some regrets about the whole draft day trade of us two for my sister. Maybe that was a thing that she never spoke to us about growing up, but maybe that was something deep down that she had some regrets about. I don't know.
I think that my own experience, but also my awareness from other people is that decisions are made in the couple years after getting divorced. And not all, like, there are those rare, beautiful examples of divorces where people are friends and they're gracious and they're lovely to each other and everything works wonderfully. But okay, those aside, um, there are a lot of indication that the decisions that are made, like in that short term period right after, later are not the decisions that people want to live by. And sometimes it's an easy undoing. Sometimes it's like you got one person has the money and the wherewithal to go to court to fight for what they want. And then other times, it seems like people just accept this is like the deal I made and I have to live with
Yeah.
it for whatever reason. And I wondered when you first said that if that was something that ever came to light that they wanted to continue that or didn't regret it because, like you have a 7 and a 5-year-old, when you think of those ages, and if you were to like swap that at that point, you take one, your wife takes another, maybe for some reason in that moment that makes sense, but like then you realize what you're missing out on or your emotions relax, like all of the angst that was happening during that divorce that's very adult centric, when that starts to subside and you're left with this decision that you made, it's interesting because I would think that as a mother, there would have been something that she would have liked to have done different. And what a blessing in a way that you got that I don't know how long you stayed, but at some point you got this time with her, that maybe you wouldn't have gotten if that hadn't have happened with your stepmom, you know?
Right, right. No, I stayed there. She got a lot of time with me. I was there till uh, I was almost 30 years. I stayed at home until I was 30.
Wow.
30 years old.
So
Yeah,
you went there and then never left for quite a while.
exactly. I mean, I was obviously when I was in my 20s. I mean, I was never home, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
It's like you're
um,
more of a place.
I it was a kind of a weird situation where um, I just started doing the electrical work. I started partying a little with friends. I was like 22. Like, hey, we can go to bars now. And I just kind of like I drifted for a little bit, and my life changed a lot between 31 and now. And now I all of
Yeah.
a sudden I bought my own house when I was because I was saving for a house. I bought my first house when I was what 33, a little house, cute 800 square foot house in Vancouver, Washington, about a mile east of Clark College. I still have it. I use it as
For
a
you.
rental now,
Yeah.
and I lived there for like only 2 years on my own. Then I met my wife. We dated for about a year. We moved in together. We were married about a year later. Had some kids. So my
Yeah.
life changed drastically in like a 5 year span.
Yeah.
I went from living at home still at 31, buying my first house, getting married, having kids. It was just
But
a rapid change.
like everybody's path is different, and obviously that's a little unconventional, but look at what you've been able to do since, like, in a way, like, so kind of doing what you did with college, but then taking on a trade, which, more people should do. And I hope that there's a resurgence in it.
I agree.
But doing that, you probably were making good money. You were young. You were probably, even if you were paying your mom rent, you probably weren't paying what you'd be paying in a mortgage. So, what you were able to do to set your life up for then having a family, not that you saw it all coming together, but it just came together in a different way, And maybe that some of it was because you weren't with her young, and subconsciously you got time with her, I mean, it's a really interesting way that things kind of weave together. um
That's a great point. It could have been like subconscious. I was so comfortable being there. I mean, my friends would make fun of me all the time. Like, you still live with your mom. I was like, whatever, I would just go along with their jokes. I was just kind of living with her, enjoying it, saving up for a house.
yeah,
And it was great.
yeah.
She got 14 years with me, which she still claims is 14 of her favorite years. I mean,
Oh,
we had some fun. I was like older, so if even when I was in my mid 20s, if I was gonna not be home for the night, if I had too much to drink and staying at a friend's house, I would call her like, hey, I'll see you in the morning, kind of thing. It was it was fantastic. I don't know, I loved
yeah.
it.
I
So
mean, just I think back to my own 20s, and you're like, everything seemed so major there. Like, the fact that you were living at home probably seemed like this really odd thing, although how many of your friends went and bought a house in their early 30s, But as you look at it now from an older perspective, it's kind of like, whatever. It didn't
yeah,
it doesn't matter, like, look at where you are now, and that just was a part of your story, And I just I think it's a really cool story, and I think that, um, it's just really interesting how you got time with your mom in a totally different way that I would have never expected you to say. I do wanna go back to your dad and your stepmom, because I'm wondering, after you have that and you have that fight, and I have 2 kind of thoughts around that. So you see your dad very emotional, but you said something really interesting when you were telling me that story, in that your dad really let your stepmom parent you guys.
mm,
And, as a dad now, and you think about that, and just maybe how that played out, like, the role that your dad took in that when he had you guys full time, but your stepmom was parenting you more, like, What are your thoughts around all of that and what happened with that relationship after you went to your mom's?
So after I went to my mom's, it was a little weird between my dad and my stepmom for 6 months or so, and then I started coming back. I mean, I would still talk to them. Like I would call my dad over the phone, and talk to my stepmom. And then after like 6 months, I would go visit them because I still went to school in La Center, even though I was living in over in Brush Prairie in Hawkinson, is a little town, unincorporated town. And so I was always in La Center, still hanging out with friends, going to school there for the like next 2 years until I graduated. And then I would start showing up, visiting with them. They would always call me strange, like, "Hey, stranger, you never pick up the phone," and I would always be like, "You guys can call me too," kind of thing, because it's like they put it on me to be the one to always reach out and communicate, and so that after they that kind of kept happening, it kind of I don't want to say turned me off, but I was like, they always act like I'm the only one that can reach out, and so it's like subconsciously maybe I started reaching out a little less,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then I was like, oh, it's been so long. I'm going to stop by and see him. And so
Yeah.
I'd stop by and see him. But I mean, we'd never really talk about it. It was just kind of, they would ask how I was doing. We would just have like a normal visit. It was like nothing happened. But then I would just go home to my mom's house kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you ever reflect on your dad being emotional in that moment? Because, now you're looking at it from not just an adult perspective, but also from a dad perspective. What his wife did in that moment changed his relationship with you. How did that then impact your relationship with your dad, or did it get better over time? Because he really, he raised you your whole life essentially. And then the last couple years, you're not there. And a lot of that is because you got in this argument with her.
Yeah, no, it got better over time. He did tell me one time we would still go fishing sometimes. I would go fishing with him a lot when I was a kid. But after that happened, I think we were fishing up in the hills one time, and he mentioned it wasn't like this big heart to heart planned talk that I don't think that he meant to like purposefully bring it up, but he did mention that he wishes that he would have put his foot down a little bit more during that argument that led to me moving. Because what happened is my stepmom told me that she was going to take me off the basketball team, and that's what caused me to freak out because we were just getting ready to go to the state tournament. And so I'm like, no, you're not taking me off the whatever. So my dad, he mentioned, he's like, I should have stepped in. I should have said, no, you're not going to pull him off the team kind of thing. So he did express a little regret on not putting his foot down during that moment. But that's just kind of who he was, how he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
My stepmom has since passed away, and it's my dad is living by himself. Um, and so he's sort of brought it up again since then, saying that he wishes that stuff was different. It didn't end up the way it did. But back when I was in high school,
Yeah.
he still regrets that a little bit. And I told it's not his fault. It's my fault that started it when I snuck out to go see my girlfriend. So it's not my dad's fault, in my opinion.
Yeah.
By any means.
But probably that acknowledgement felt good,
Hmm. Yeah.
just that
Oh, for sure.
validation. Yeah.
Yeah, because I kind of wished that he would put his foot down a little more sometimes growing up. I kind of see myself doing that a little bit with my daughters. I mean, I'll put my foot down with my wife for sure. I feel like more than my dad did, but I see myself kind of similar to him, like where if there's something important that the girls want, I go ask your mother because I don't want to say the wrong thing and then I get in trouble from my wife. So like the little things or like semi little things, like yeah, you can have some chocolate even though it's 4:30 and we're gonna have dinner soon. You can have one little piece, but like the big things, like I'm like go ask your mom,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has it, um Like at this kind of, I don't know the best way to ask this question, but so you're married and you have kids and you are getting to watch your wife be a mother in a way
Mhm.
that you really didn't get to see your mom mother you when you were young. Do you feel like there's anything you do or pay attention to differently or that surprises you, or it's not just not on your radar?
I mean, not really on my radar. It is awesome seeing her parent because she is an incredible mother. In my opinion, she's a better mother than I am a father for sure. Um, but it is cool because I never got to see my mom raise my sister. I mean, I got to see her, like I said, of course, every other weekend, and it was just we could do whatever we wanted to, kind of thing, almost. But seeing a mother like firsthand, my wife raise our kids is, I mean, it's incredible to watch and witness.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when you look back, is there any part of it that outside of maybe seeing your mom more when you were young and not like swapping out siblings, is there anything else that you would have liked to have seen or felt differently in kind of those years up until 16 that would have made a difference maybe for you?
I would if they would have. I think if they would have been more amicable the whole time, I would have liked to see that. Um, Instead of them never talk. I hardly ever saw them speak
Yeah.
up until I was like in high school. Like even at sporting events, they would be at the other side of the field or court, whatever game I was playing. To be able to do one, like especially on holidays, one event, get the whole family together, I think would have been just amazing. And that just never happened. That's the probably the main thing I can say is the
Yeah.
fact that they were not enemies, but enemies in a way,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
they.
I think that speaks volumes to so I asked you if they ever spoke badly about each other in front of you, and you said no.
Yeah.
But what kids perceive, even when parents are not speaking poorly of each other, is very profound. And I had someone give me an example of how their parents would come to, let's say it was a football game, I don't recall, and they were in the stands, but they weren't near each other. And his feelings in that moment were I was more concerned about my parents in the stands and what was happening with them than I was about the football game that I was playing in. And
Oh
I
my gosh.
truly don't think that parents think in that moment that their kid would be more worried about them in the stands than their activity that they're doing. And I just think that it is an example of how aware kids are, but how powerful that disconnect actually is. And, I don't know if you have thoughts around that specifically, but you said that how they were at 2 different ends of the court or whatever it was, and, like, how did you feel in those moments, and how aware were you?
I mean, that's sad that if a child was more taking their focus off the game because they're worried about or they're more concerned about that's a terrible situation. I don't think that was the case with me. I mean, I wish that they would be together, but like when I was playing a game, I was more nervous for the game, honestly.
Yeah,
like uh like I was worried I was going to do something bad in the game. I wasn't really focused on that, but I would say after the game was over, I wish it would have been cool to. I remember thinking it would be cool to like talk to them all, like if they all came up to me at once to say like great game instead of one parent waiting for the other one to get done saying good game and then they can. But during the game itself, that what you described was not the case with me. That's
yeah,
terribly sad.
yeah. But
I'm,
I
I'm
do
glad that wasn't the case for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I
Yeah.
think what happens a lot is like what you said, where one parent's essentially like waiting in line while the other one
Hmm.
says their bit, and then we're
Yeah.
swapping out. And how actually easy would it be to just everybody check yourselves and just all stand here together for the kid and talk to him about his game at one point, at one time, so he can express and so everyone collectively can express their joy in watching you and all of that. Again, that kind of goes back to there are these little things that impact that parents don't they think they're like saving everyone for doing this awkward like waiting in line. You have your time, I have my time. We're all being respectful of each other and we don't really want to talk to each other, but in reality you're there for the kid and you need to talk to the kid. You don't need to talk to each other.
Absolutely. Seeing my friends' parents who aren't divorced and his grand like all at once, like, hey, great game. It was like I remember after the game was over, wishing that was like, oh god, I wish my parents never got divorced because then that could be like us. I mean, it wasn't like where I was like depressed because of it, but
Yeah,
it
of
was
course.
just like a feeling I had that
Yeah.
like I wish that
Yeah.
was my family
Yeah.
still married and everyone getting along kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think like I was talking to someone yesterday who has this beautiful, very gracious co-parenting situation where like they are this very united front. They were doing all the things that you're saying, like step parents and grandparents and everyone sitting in the stands watching the daughter together as this one huge unit for this daughter. And it's amazing. And I said, that's amazing. That's really rare. I can't believe how you manage that. And she told me a million other stories of like, the grace that everyone gives each other is incredible. But I thought, if parents are listening to this, you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be these big high bar setting gracious people that are just checking your emotions left and right and making everything perfect for your children despite your divorce. But knowing that that is a moment that a lot of kids talk about, that their parents can't just talk to them together. Like if there's one thing to pick, maybe pick that as this very public environment where you can just come together for your kid and then you get to go away. You get to go on your own path. And the more that parents can maybe have little examples of ways that they could pick and choose what might work for them to do a little better for their kids, collectively, it's just decreasing those impacts on kids. And that's why I'm talking to people is to just try and say, parents get divorced, there's millions of consequences because of that, but there are ways to do it better and ways that you make it worse. And so if they can just after a sporting event, stand there, smile, tell the kid together, you did amazing, and then go on with your life, what you just gave that kid in that moment is probably invaluable. And what it actually did to you doesn't really matter because you get to go on and go away. And so I think that's a really big deal.
Yeah, do it for your kids. You
Yeah.
know, if, just be the bigger mom and dad, and even if you have to fake, like you said, if you have to fake it, just do it, and then you can go your separate ways. But what it's going to do to the kid is just immeasurable.
And what it shows the kid too, I think, what it shows them that you're willing to do for them,
Mm,
I think is really valuable as well. Because these kids are going to grow up and they're going to have difficult situations in their own lives. And if their parents role modeled for them, I can do hard things with people I don't want to be around, but I can do it for a bigger reason. I mean, that's a beautiful lesson to teach as well, because kids
yes,
are going to be in
yeah,
it one way or the other. Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you related to this, and then I end on a lighter note of a question. But when you think of just all of the story that you've told me, can you pinpoint a non-negotiable value that you have taken from all of that and have kind of imparted that into your life, your parenting, your marriage, your day-to-day that you can kind of connect to that childhood?
Oh, geez, I guess it would be what I went back about how my stepmom would kind of, I don't want to say walk all over my dad, because I mean that didn't happen. My dad would just kind of defer everything, and so I'm trying to not do that as much. Um, I'm also trying not to just be like the best friend and just have my wife do all of the punishment kind of. um, that kind of thing. So I'm trying not to be such a pushover with my kids.
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes I am, like I'm just the fun guy, and my wife is always, the one putting the foot down. So I'm trying to actively recognize when that's happening and change that. I mean, I feel like I've gotten better the last few years since I've noticed that that was kind of a pattern I was starting to adopt. I'm trying to actively change that. So
Well,
yeah,
your awareness of that is awesome because
yeah,
that's the only way to change it is to be aware of it. And your kids are so young that like you've already figured it out and now it's just about doing it, which will be hard every day because parenting is hard every day. However, I just think having that kind of light bulb in your mind that this is a way I want to be different, is really it's I don't think we often have goals in parenting for ourselves and how we want to parent because we're just trying to parent, and in a weird way, your experience has given you a more clarity around how you want to parent, which ultimately probably is going to make your relationship with your daughters so much
mm,
stronger, over
yeah,
the course of their life, which is a weird gift that you got from your childhood. So it's kind of a nice way to make it come full circle.
and I'm gonna turn into the hammer. It's gonna be dad. Dad's gonna be the hammer. My wife's gonna be the best friend, and I'm just gonna hammer down on him.
Yep. You're going to start serving beef stroganoff is what you're going to start doing.
Yes. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner until it's gone, girls.
Yeah. You're like, why are these kids so skinny all of a sudden? What's happening at that house?
Well, my youngest daughter, she would probably love it. She eats almost anything we put in front of her. She'll One of her favorite things to eat is steamed broccoli with a
Wow.
little bit of salt on it. Yeah, she'll just pop in more broccoli, please. I'm like, coming
That's
up.
yes. Hopefully it lasts forever. My goodness.
Then yeah, our youngest daughter, she just wants snacks. She wants chips, Cheetos. She wants fruit roll ups and not gummy bears, but like the fruit snacks and stuff like
Oh,
that.
funny.
I'm like, honey, you
Total
need some
polar
protein.
opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she'll grab a piece of bread. She's like, okay, I'm eating protein. I'm like, that's not protein. Then here comes the hammer. Want to make some beef stroganoff and slam it
There
in
you
front of
go.
her.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is funny. Wow. Well, it will change. It won't always stay that way.
Yeah, no, we try to hide stuff in. Like my wife will make chocolate muffins, but she'll put shredded zucchini, shredded carrots,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff in there, and then it bakes into there, and you can't even
Yeah.
taste it. So
Yeah.
that's one way
Well,
we can try to.
I tried to do that with cauliflower rice. I tried to put it in my son's macaroni and cheese. And he took one bite. He was probably 6. He took one bite. He glared at me and said, "What did you put in this?" And he wouldn't eat mac and cheese after that without
Oh
watching me.
no!
And he will still to this day say, and he's almost 13, "Remember when you tried to hide stuff in my mac and cheese?" So it can be kind of scarring also. I end all of these with asking for a book recommendation, something totally irrelevant to what we've talked about, but just kind of ending on a lighter note. So if you have something you've read or set now, when I talked to your wife, she had to admit that she doesn't read books.
Yeah, no, she
So
doesn't
that
really.
was really funny. We had to end up, I think we ended up on that she's watched Bridgerton. So that became what she referenced.
Yep,
But
and so have I. I
yeah.
reluctantly was sort of forced to watch it before
Yeah.
I instantly got sucked in.
Oh
Same thing with Emily in Paris. I didn't want to watch it,
my
and she would
gosh.
watch it, and I would be doing something in the kitchen. Next thing you know, I'm eating popcorn watching it.
Oh my gosh,
Like
that's
so and
so
so said what? I got sucked in and loved. I loved both those shows. Afraid to say, but
yeah, that's so
book
funny.
recommendation. I would say anything Dan Brown. He's my favorite author. Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons. I've read all of his books. He does have a newer one out. It's not brand
Yes,
new,
The Secret of
but
Secrets.
yes. And so
You
that's the
have
one
to
I
read
need.
it. It
I'm reading
is
that next.
so good. It is
Yeah.
it took me a little bit to get into it. It's a little bit like the lots of different things going on that all come together, like the Da Vinci Code and his books, but it
Yeah.
is it is fantastic. You will love it.
That's good to hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely reading that next.
Yes.
One more book. I'm kind of a World War II geek, like a lot of men are. So there's a book called Band of Brothers. That
Yeah.
there's also a movie or a HBO miniseries called Band of Brothers. This is
Yes.
a thick book, and it kind of goes in to the backstory of all the real life characters, and it's fascinating as well. If you're
Did you
into
watch
to World War II stuff.
Well, I actually am, and I have a son who's kind of getting into it, but I never watched the series. Did you watch the series?
Yeah, I own it. The ten discer on DVD.
Do you do you think it's appropriate for a 13-year-old boy, or is it too much?
There's some gore in it. Does he watch gory? I mean, it's not
He
like
can
like
watch,
axe murdery stuff, but
yeah.
it's war
Like he's
like
yeah, like war, blood and guts.
yeah, realistic war scenes. Yeah,
We'll see. I don't know. I feel like he's not a book reader, so but he's getting into really like history and keeps asking questions about the different wars. So I wonder if maybe that's something. Maybe we watch the first one and see if he likes it and see.
yeah. Well, yeah. It doesn't get really too graphic until like the second or third, late second, third episode.
Okay.
Um, yeah, maybe watch the first and see if it's something that he's interested in.
Yeah.
And that book actually, it's not called Band of Brothers. I think it's called Brothers in Battle, Best of Friends. Just in case anyone is
Wow. Okay.
interested, I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
But it's based on the Band of Brothers,
Yeah.
real life soldiers. Yeah,
Okay. Wow.
Dan Brown,
Well,
he's another.
yeah. Well, I just can't thank you enough. Your not exciting story was really fascinating, and I just want to thank you for sharing it with
It's
me.
just normal to me. It's boring to me. I lived it.
I know, but I think it has a lot of lessons in it for people that, want to do things better and want to do things differently. And I think what it shows is that you can kind of creatively do things, but you just have to be aware of the impacts of them. I do believe that every family could be reflected in different ways. Not everybody has to go through divorce the same way, and not every child should be treated the same. But there are certain things that impact kids, no matter which way you do it, that I think greater awareness can lessen the negative impacts. And so I think just shedding light on those in any way is really helpful.
Absolutely. I think what you're doing is a great thing
Oh, thank you.
for
I
sure.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for doing it, and I just appreciate your story.
Cool. Happy to be here.
Thanks for tuning in. Together we can shape healthier paths for families to do divorce better. See you next time on In Between Them.